Well, hello there. I thought I'd discuss something that's talked about a lot. It's should you bring your filipina to your home country or the U.S. or wherever your home country is? And I thought I'd talk about a couple of guys that did and they didn't. And there was one guy I know in Dumaguete, well actually lives in Bacong, and we'll call him Sam, but that's not really his name. Anyway, Sam got married to a Filipina and he took her back to the United States and they went through the process. You know, he changed his status and she got her green card, and then later on, you know, she got her U.S. citizenship with a passport. And then at some point they decided that they wanted to live in the Philippines, so they went back to Bacong and he bought a used car and everything was great, until he realized that he needed some cardiac surgery. So what he did was, at this point, you know, he had a Social Security check coming in, but that was about it. And he decided that he was going to go back to the United States and use Medicare to get his surgery. But, you know, he didn't have any wherewithal, so he sold his car that he bought used. He sold it for 150,000 pesos, which is about $3,000. And so he had the money, and he took his Filipino wife with him because she had a U.S. passport. And he had his surgery, recovered, and they moved back to the Philippines. And everything went along well. Now, there was another guy that was his neighbor in Bacong, and we'll call him Al. That's not his real name, but he married a Filipina, you know, but you know, he thought, well, I'm gonna stay in the Philippines. Relatives are here, and he didn't go take her to the United States. So eventually Al, after about 10 years or so, Al started having medical problems. And so his wife, his Filipina, had to take care of him. And he didn't go back to the United States for treatment. And I think, you know, he was living on a Social Security check. And he got worse and worse. And then she took him to the province because she couldn't take care of him herself. And her family members did, and he passed away. So the deal is, you know, and that's something that happens. You know, like Al lived in the Philippines with his wife for like 10 years. Fine, he did fine. But then, you know, eventually started having medical problems, and that was it. Now, some people might say, well, maybe he could have got treatment in the Philippines. Well, you can, but it's like cash out of pocket. Now, I knew another guy. Well, let's call him Joe. That's not his real name, but he came to the Philippines, married a Filipina, and everything was going great. We started feeling ill, and so he went to the hospital, and they drew blood. They drew what's called markers, and they did a CT scan, and the markers showed up that he was diagnosed with cancer. And I don't know if he could have got treatment in the Philippines, but he was just living on a Social Security check, and his Filipino wife, you know, he didn't bring her to the U.S. to get like Sam did. So he would have to go back to the U.S. alone, and people don't want to be alone. And about a month later, he passed away. So, there's like a few things involved here. You know, like some guys will say, well, we're happy in the Philippines and we're not going to pursue anything in the United States or your home country. We're just going to stay here. And then eventually they're going to need some have some medical problems. And they could pay out of pocket. And then there's some people who say, well, you can do it with health insurance. There's health insurance policies that you can use in the Philippines. Well, you know, the thing is about that is, because I was in I lived in the Philippines, and I went to the hospital when I needed something done, and I always asked them, I said, well, will you take my insurance? And they said, no, we don't take your insurance. So well, I paid out of pocket, but if you decide to do that and the hospital will not take your insurance, and your insurance is the type of insurance that they say they'll cover you out of your country, then you would have to get all your documentation and submit a claim, and there's probably a good chance they'll deny your claim. And if they do, you know, then you're not, I'll put it this way, don't count on it. They could cover it, you know, or some people say they'll just take your insurance. Well, I haven't found that type of situation in the Philippines. That might happen, but then even if they take your insurance, the insurance company could still deny your claim, because the insurance companies, one of the things about the insurance companies, health insurance, is they don't want to pay. Okay, well, moving on. Okay, now let's say there's some guys that will say, well, what I'll do is I'll use my money to buy my Filipina a house. Now, like a house, like a tract home, I think is around equivalent of maybe $50,000 US. And they said, well, she'll have the house when I pass on, and she'll have something. Well, that's only $50,000. I mean, you know, if she has a U.S. citizenship, you know, she could go to the U.S. and, you know, get a job and make way more than like the OFWs that work in like Saudi Arabia and those places. She make way more money than that. And if she wanted to go to school to become like a registered nurse, you know, then she could do that. And then, you know, the starting salary nowadays, I think, is around, for RN, is about $50 an hour. So she could make a tremendous amount of money. Like a U.S. citizenship is worth millions, you know, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. As opposed to, you know, $50,000 house. Okay, now let's move on to another phase here. Okay, let's say that you say, okay, I'm convinced with your opinion, and I want to bring my Filipina to the United States. Now, there's other countries, but I'm familiar with the United States. And what would you need to sponsor her? Okay, just a minute. Let me get something. Okay. Now, according to U.S. immigration, you will need verifiable income. Income to bring you and your Filipina to the United States. You need $24,650 a year. Now, if she has children or something like that, it's going to be more. Or if you want to move to Alaska or Hawaii, it's going to be higher. But this is just base income, verifiable income. Now, what if you say, well, I don't have it. I'm only getting like $12,000 a year in Social Security. There's a way. Have no fear. If you have a shortfall of your annual income, then you're short. Okay, let's say you get $12,650 from your Social Security check a year. And so your shortfall is $12,000. Okay, but according to U.S. immigration, you multiply your shortfall times 3, and that would be $36,000. If you have $36,000 in the bank, and you're getting, say, $12,650 a year with your Social Security, then you can qualify. You can bring your filipina into the U.S. Then there's some people who will say, well, wait a minute, where am I going to live? Well, of course you're not going to be able to live in Manhattan or Beverly Hills or Malibu, something like that. But you could live somewhere like Des Moines, Iowa, or Cut and Shoot, Texas, or something like that. And you can probably, have enough money to cover it. But the whole idea, I think, is to be able to get her that citizenship. So once she has that citizenship, then she's set. Your $50,000 house, nah, that's not going to do it. But once you get a U.S. citizenship, that'll do the trick. And possibly, I'm not sure of the legalities, but possibly have a dual citizenship. That would be even better. Now one of the things, there's some rules with the U.S. immigration about leaving the country where you're on a green card status, and I think it's allowed, but you can't just live in the Philippines all the time, with a green card, because they're not going to take your green card away. But then when you try to get her U.S. citizenship, they're going to say, well, you were over there, and you're not serious. That's what they'll say. So you're best to just stay in the U.S. and do like Sam did. He went to the U.S., took his Filipina with him, and he just stayed there until she got her citizenship. And then they said, okay, well, now she has her citizenship, you can go back to the Philippines and live in the Philippines. But if you ever need to, like say for instance, you need to go to the U.S. because of maybe possibly a funeral, or you need to visit relatives or something like that, you can take your Filipina with you. Now, if she doesn't have any passport, U.S. passport, or she doesn't have a green card or anything like that, then you have to go back alone. Anyway, that's my take on it, and it's in the long run, you're probably better off just taking your Filipina to your home country. I'm not sure about the laws in Australia or UK or any of that, or Canada. But in the United States, you need a certain amount of income, and just go back to the U.S. and say, well, I don't have a lot of money. Well, you go to Grand Junction, Nebraska, or someplace that's doesn't take a lot of money to live there somewhere, and stay there and get that citizenship. Anyway, those are my opinions. You can do whatever you want. It's however you want to do it. But that's my opinion. I know it's a big topic about should you bring your Filipina to your home country. I think you should. and I think you should get her a passport, and so that, you know, down the road she's going to need it, or if you need to go to your home country, you can just take her with you. Anyway, that's it, and thanks for watching.